The Paternoster Gang. They are, well, there are three of us. Then is Madame Vastra, played by myself. She's a Silurian, a lizard woman from the dawn of time. Her wife, Jenny Flint, who's kick-ass Victorian young lassie. And, of course, then we have Strax, who is a Sontaran.
We were first seen in Doctor Who in A Good Man Goes to War. But at that time, we weren't really known as the Paternoster Gang. I'm not sure what episode we became the Paternoster Gang, but we were called that, which is where we live on Paternoster Row.
The 11th Doctor drafts them all in to rescue the baby Melody Pond, who was later revealed to be River Song, and Strax perished in the big battle at the end of that episode. But then it transpired that he wasn't quite dead, and whilst healing him with some kind of machine, Vastra and Jenny invited him back to Victorian London and invited him to be part of their household.
And so the Paternoster Gang is a sort of spin-off series of those three characters in Doctor Who, and we now have our own series with Big Finish.
And so we end up living in Victorian London and solving lots of wonderful, weird and wonderful sci-fi problems with a good touch of humour in it.
They fight crime, they fight alien depredations into Victorian London, and they have lots of adventures. I think the Paternoster Gang, they gel very well together because they're sort of they're a team. They're sort of like they're adventurers. They have skill sets that complement each other. You know, Vastra is a great detective. Jenny is kind of like a spy, but also she's got sort of like fighting skills, martial arts skills. And Strax is a formidable military tactician.
You know, there's a lot of humour, a lot of banter between us, and you've got three very distinct personalities who are actually, in a way, all three of them are orphans in a sense, or loners. And they form their own little family, which is the Paternoster Gang.
And then you've got Madame Vastra and Jenny's relationship, which is a really lovely relationship for which there's lots to explore. And they're not just sort of maid. Well, she is her maid to the outside world, but behind closed doors, she's her wife.
Also, they're a household, you know, so Vastra is the lady of the house, Jenny is her maid, Strax is the butler. But also, they're kind of like a weird surrogate family in that Jenny and Vastra are married, and Strax is sort of... I suppose he's like a younger sibling, or sort of like they have a strange sort of para-familial relationship. There's
a lot of love between them, but it's always a little bit hidden. We're now on our third box set, which is subtitled Heritage.
The Heritage story arc is coming together by the end of the fourth box set, so it's very interesting. Lots of chickens are coming home to roost for the Paternosters. Obviously, Strax has a hinterland as a Sontaran. Also, Vastra has, as having woken up from her sort of eons long slumber beneath the Earth's surface. So, and Jenny's got family as well that come back up. So all of them are kind of dealing with stuff from their past.
I'd always imagined she was sort of an orphan, but you sort of find out in this episode that they are still alive, and they come to see her and they meet Madame Vastra, which they have quite a surprise.
What's starting to happen is we've got a through line now. Rather than it being sort of episodic, there is something, I mean, still episodic, but there's a through line running through a lot of the stories now. And it's about all these weird and wonderful, very ancient relics which start to spark things off for Vastra, connected with a very ancient god of planet Earth linked to the Silurian people that we used to worship. So it's getting very interesting. I love all that.
There's some quite fun stuff about danger from the beginnings of time that are starting to wake up beneath the surface of the world. So lots of stuff which is happening, and we allude to lots of these themes in some of the stories in lots of different elliptical ways. So it's good fun how all the stories are standalone, but I think they prove a satisfying arc altogether when you listen to them all together.
Jenny on screen is pretty. She does quite a lot of action and sword fighting, and there's a scene with judo moves. But yeah, for Big Finish, there is a lot. Well, yeah, this week I've been doing quite a lot of shouting and huffing and puffing and pretending to hit people and kick people. One
big difference about not being in prosthetics is that simply, Neve and I at least, we can hear ourselves speak properly.
It's weird because you can't. There's a whole different way that you hear yourself internally when you're under that. Because a lot of times you can't actually hear some of the other people on set. Sometimes you're just lip reading and you go, all right, I've got to answer.
Part of Strax's voice comes from my ears being slightly muffled by sort of 3 3-4 centimetres of latex either side of them. So you can't quite tell how loud you're being, which sort of works with the Sontarans because they're sort of like military sort of parade ground shouters anyway. But I think that's an interesting sort of quality. And also the general sort of, he's a little bit adrift in the world, you know, he's a bit of a fish out of water, but it's helpful when you've got that slight barrier that adds to the performance as well. But it's certainly a lot more comfortable doing it in clothes as opposed to a big rubber suit.